So I thought I would do a recap on what I read. Um, just because I do watch a lot of content about book reviews, what people thought about their books, how they annotate, and different things like that. So I decided I would walk through some of the books that I read this year, in no particular order, but I read Near to the Wild Heart somewhere like early January. And then Blood Over Brighthaven I read in February. Tender is the Flesh was during April, and Babel was also a little bit towards the end of March and beginning of April. And right there is my current read on the right, Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. But yeah, let's jump right into it. First up, we have Near to the Wild Heart by Clarice Lispector. New translation by Allison Entrekin. It was actually recommended to me by my sister. I won't say we have the same taste in books. They're pretty similar, but I definitely dive a little bit more into fantasy than she does. But when it comes to her giving me any kind of recommendation, I definitely take it wholeheartedly. She has a very good taste in literature and books, and I'm a pretty open-minded person, I think. But yeah, this book was a thrill of a read to start the year off. I actually don't know if this was the first book of the year. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But it was in January that I read it when I'm checking my timestamps. But yeah, like this line right here. Eternity is non-being. Death is immortality. They were still floating there, leftover scraps of torment, and she no longer knew what to connect them to. She was so tired. You know, just this entire book was a fantastic read. I do annotate a lot. It's a little tough finding the lines that I like. And the thing I do with annotating is sometimes I'll go back and see what I underlined or grabbed. I like to hide money in my books. Just for that. Oh, look. Forgot those were in there. That's funny. Ooh, like that's a good line right there that I should probably underline. The piano was deliberately attacked in strong, uniform scales. Exercises, she thought. Exercises. Yes, she discovered and mused. Why not? Why not try to love? Why not try to live? I'm not gonna lie. This was pretty early in the year when I read this, so it won't be fresh thoughts of the book. But yeah, I don't want to ramble too much about one book out of the 4 that I chose to do my first video on, but I will say that diving into Joanna's perceptions and her struggle to connect really had me reflect on my own sense of self, you know? And I'm going to say this for all the books I'm putting up right here, but if you have any thoughts or just what your opinion was on any of these books, if you've read them, or if you have any questions about any of these books, I am more than open to converse in the comments, more or less. I'll try my best to. But yeah, I think for me, it's definitely something I have to, annotate and reread points of the book that I kind of need to, what's the word? Like reanalyze, or just analyze in the first place, themes and such kind of thing. It's definitely not something I can just kind of breeze through. It's let me read a couple pages and ponder and think, how do I feel about this and what do I think about this? How do I relate to Joanna in this, or do I relate to her at all? Have I ever felt the way she felt in her isolation, in her struggles with her marriage, or how she perceives her marriage sometimes? And, or even if I'm just completely not getting it, But I did enjoy this book. Shout out to my sister for the recommendation, and this was definitely a good start to the year of my just whatever books I've been reading. Now this book, Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wang. This book is exceptional. This had me, if you can't tell, absolutely in a chokehold. The magic system in this book, absolutely brilliant. I could not put it down, and oh man, just like everything about it was just crazy. And she did such a good job of making me hate Siona but also love Siona as a character. You know, no spoilers, but what, you know, the events that transpire in the novel are, oh, dude, speechless. It's like I wouldn't even know how to like go about talking about this book unless you've read the book, because like, yeah, we can talk about how intricate the magic system is and how cool it is that the revelation of how the magic is obtained is insane. And you know, I couldn't even tell you what line I would like to, you know, point out, because there's so many different things in here that I was going through. Like right here, let's see if this is a spoiler before I read it. I believe this is just part of the magic system. I will not turn my gaze, Siona snarled at the end of the prayer for him. Though light burn me, for light will show the truth of the world, and all truth in the world is of Theron the Father. Behold, she held her arms wide before the archmages. God's work. Like, oh man, such a fantastic book. I read this while I was in San Diego, and yeah, it just had me in an absolute chokehold. I was there for work, and pretty much almost all the free time I had, I was flying through this book. And I guess real quickly I could talk about how I annotate, if I can find the page with the sorry, I'm using one hand because funny enough I'm holding my phone with the other hand. But yeah, here I kind of color coded a little bit, but green stuff would be like Siona. Thelmil was like the light blue, world history. Usually this is what I kind of do for bigger books. I forgot to write anything for these two. And then this revelation is crazy. I have Blight and the magic system as two separate things. Like I said, if you read it, you know how I was sitting there like, oh, well, now I gotta change my annotations because, well, maybe the revelation being like live casted through the little stickies will kind of highlight, oh damn, this is when he found out what the magic system and Blight have in relation to each other. But yeah, I loved Siona, I hated her at the same time. Thelmil was probably my favorite character in the book. Yeah. So Babel by R.F. Kuang. This is another book that just absolutely fried me. I've been reading her books backwards. I don't know if I'm gonna pronounce it right, but Catabasis. I read that first. I follow Leve and Unia on Instagram, and Unia had posted like the pre-published, you know, stapled on paper thing of Catabasis, tomato. I should probably look that up, but it's okay. I was like, oh, that looks interesting. And when I went to go pick up some books prior to heading out for work, I saw that special edition at I believe it was either at Barnes and Noble or Books A Million, one of the two. And I was like, yeah, let me pick this up. And lo and behold, for somebody that likes to read fantasy books, I cannot believe I did not jump on these prior to. So now I've been reading them backwards. I read Catabasis, I read The Poppy War, the first book, and as you can see, I'm reading Dragon Republic right now. But Babel, I read last month, April, end of March, leading towards April. Same thing, the magic silver system in this book was really, really cool. I like the spin of using languages to cast or create, I guess would be the word for that. Robin was an exceptional character, and I'm blanking on his brother's name. Spoilers, but yeah, it was a fantastic book. Victoria was really cool, and yeah, the story that unfolds in here is kind of heartbreaking, I'm not going to lie. Definitely one of those books that had me at the edge of my seat, and when you get to a certain point, it's like sometimes I try and limit myself to how many pages I read or how many chapters I read, just based on like when am I going to get my next book, when can I even go and buy another book, based on like where I'm at, kind of thing. But I read this while I was out in Korea, and yeah, I read it for most of my flight too, and while I was working, whenever I had some free time. But yeah, so let's take a look. You fly no one's flag. You're free to seek your own harbor, and you can do so much more than tread water. This is when Griffin was talking to Robin. Yeah, but the relationship between Robin and Griffin was fantastic. I know Rebecca Kwong. She has been in a couple interviews where she talks about doing another book, specifically because there are some characters that survive, and that's kind of the thing that I've been finding interesting. So, like, just to backtrack a little bit on the last book, Blood Over Brighthaven, in this book, I've been liking the idea that not everybody's surviving. You know, I'll leave you with that, with no spoilers. I feel like most people have read this book and have talked about what they like about these books and stuff. Here's another part with Professor Lovell. He was such a bitch, but you will never ever touch a silver bar, Professor. Lovell leaned back, regarding Robin through cold, scrutinizing eyes. So, choose. The way he treated Robin was kind of insane in this book, but it just really puts things into perspective of how people view minorities, especially. And then their struggles with them being minorities in a prominently white college just really like hit the nail on the head for a lot of things. I'm a minority, you can't tell from my hands, but you know, I absolutely love this book. I think it was fantastic. I have been loving her works. I've been speed reading them, honestly. I read Calabasas late last year, pretty much when it came out, and then I read The Poppy War. Now I'm reading Babel. Dragon Republic I'm working on right now, which we'll get into what I've gone through there so far. And I am itching to read Burning God, Yellowface. Hopefully I can finish those two before her new book comes out. But big fan. 10 out of 10. This is a book I didn't even talk about Blood Over Brighthaven, but if you like fantasy, or if you like reading in general, Blood Over Brighthaven, 10 out of 10. And Babel, 10 out of 10. Or I guess 5 out of 5. Either way, however you rate books, I don't know. But yeah, this fantastic. I loved it. And same thing, I guess I could show you guys how I annotated. I love books with maps, by the way. A side note of what goes on in my brain. Yeah. Robin, the world stuff, notes about language, how silver worked, and just crap I liked. My colors got a little bit random, but I was in a place where I couldn't really just randomly buy stuff. But yeah, this is definitely a book I would love to talk to people about. Absolutely exceptional read. All like the little quotes in the beginning of every chapter. Yeah, this one I liked a lot. Colonialism is not a machine capable of thinking, a body endowed with reason. It is naked violence and only gives in when confronted with greater violence. Frantz Fanon, The Wretched of the Earth, translated by Richard Philcox. But yeah, this is a heavily recommended book. If you have not read it, I feel like I'm very behind. So if you have, give me thoughts. Let me know. When I tell you this book had me literally standing with my mouth wide open, there's no exaggeration. I had to, I don't know. This was actually another recommendation from my sister. I was doing some book shopping prior to departing, and I sent her a picture of like the shelf of like top picks or top bestsellers or something like that, and she was like, "Dude, Tender is the Flesh, buy it. It's so good." I was like, "Okay, say less. Let me take a gander." It's a novel by Agustina Basarica, and I believe it's a translation. I'm not seeing who it's translated by. That's okay. But yeah, a few annotations. This story revolves around the idea of society not finally, that's crazy. Well, society, there's some hints that it was faked by the government to start eating people as livestock to cull the population. And the main idea is that they stated that a virus affected all animals in the world except humans, which is a crazy thing to believe, right? Like, could you imagine every animal and fish being infected by something that insta-kills us and believing that that's true, and the solution is, well, we're just gonna eat people now. But they're not people, they're called heads, hence the cover. And they call them heads, and there's a bunch of laws that protect them from, the obvious evils of humanity. But yeah, Marcos he was a butcher prior, like an actual animal butcher, and he just kind of was adopted into this position of being one of the top guys when it comes to, running heads. And yeah, he finds a female head that he takes into his home, which it was given to him as a gift. And in this society, having head in your own property is like a sign of wealth. But it goes through his relationship with his sister, his relationship with his father, who is not doing too well. He's like in an old home. His sister is kind of detached from reality, or I want to say she is, but he also has his own problems going on in his head. But you read this book thinking he's changing, or that he knows that this concept is wrong. And when you get to like the middle, I want to say, you're kind of sitting there thinking, oh man, I don't really know. Is he or is he not? He has an interaction with actual animals, and it makes you believe that he is becoming a better person. And then you fast forward to the end of the book, and when I tell you that last page is actually insane. I'd say the last 2 pages. I don't know if this is the only version of this book, but yeah, the last 2 pages are crazy. But let's see if I can find something that was just kind of sitting there, because I think I only did annotations for stuff that I was like, oh damn, that was kind of crazy. So let's see. I don't want to do anything that's like a spoiler, so yeah, like right here when I was talking about the evils of humanity, having sex with the head, enjoying her, is illegal, and the sentence is death in the municipal slaughterhouse. The special team went to the house and confirmed that the female had been enjoyed in every possible way. The owner, a man of around 60, was sentenced and sent directly to the municipal slaughterhouse. The woman was fined and the female confiscated and sold for a low price in an auction because of what is officially referred to as proscribed enjoyment. That's crazy. It's crazy that the punishment of death was only brought in for that, crime when humans become livestock in this world. it makes you really kind of ponder on that, you know. Let's see. Ooh, passed that too fast. Oh, like right here, his relationship with his sister is rough. Cause she's a little funky as a character, I think. He doesn't ask her anything. His sister's words smell of detained humidity, of confinement, of intense cold. She keeps talking. And yeah, but this book was phenomenal. Like I said, literally had me mouth agape, questioning everything that I could possibly question. Last but not least, this is my current read right now. It is the month of May. We are halfway through the month-ish. I finally picked this up, and I'm having a blast reading it right now. And if you have any recommendations, I will say this is my favorite current author. And yeah, I don't know, I'm not that far in. I don't really have that many thoughts on it yet. I think I'm on chapter, yeah, not even page 45. But yeah, and then aside from that, I know I'm a little behind on this. It's crazy how I haven't been like spoiled on anything revolving around the book. Especially because my algorithm is so heavy on literature and stuff like that. But for some reason, my algorithm, or I guess the content creators that I do watch when it comes to books and annotating and stuff like that, they don't tend to read, or maybe they have and I just didn't see those videos. But you know, there are some books that people talk about that I have read or do pick up reading, but I think the only book out of this stack that I've picked up from a recommendation, other than my sister's, from Tender as a Flesh and News of the Wild Heart, Babel was one of those books that was heavily implied that I would like, and I just kind of never got around to it. And like I said, once I read Catabasis, however it's pronounced, I just, like, she cast a spell with that book and just got me in that chokehold, which I have no complaints. But probably in the next video we'll talk about where I'm at with this book if I'm not done with it, and some of the other books I read this year. That's definitely not all the books I read so far this year. I've got maybe 8 books right there, my little stack. Yeah, here's my current stack of what I have here, where I'm currently staying, but that's what I just went through. Here's the Poppy War, absolutely phenomenal. Maybe we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth. But here's some other books: Yoko Okawa, Between Two Fires. You can read. I read a bunch of manga also, and maybe we could talk about those. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you have any advice, hints, whatever, maybe I could go more in depth with the book itself. I feel like I just kind of rambled about nothing. But yeah, I guess I'm just trying to find a way to talk about what I've read with other people, and this is a pretty straightforward way of doing it, I believe. But yeah, if you watched the video, leave a comment, throw a like if you liked it. If not, it's okay. But yeah. And oh, I didn't even do an introduction, so I guess do an outroduction. But you guys can call me Nori. I like reading books, manga. I like to write my thoughts, what's going on in my head. I play video games, play guitar, I can play some keys, pretty much anything with strings, I think. I can read sheet music and stuff. I like Magic the Gathering, and I like exercising, staying healthy, and maybe we could do a video on some other stuff when I figure out a better setup and maybe actually have like a plan when it comes to doing what I'm trying to do right here, where I talk about what I'm reading. Or I could probably just keep it raw like this and just kind of blabber on. I think what I need to do differently is that I kind of went back a couple of months of what I read, so the thoughts of what I read aren't as fresh. Whereas with Dragon Republic and I forgot what my next pickup was gonna be. Probably Burning God, but we could do like a real, you know, what I think or my thoughts, etc. But yeah, thanks for sticking around. I'll catch you guys later. Bye bye.